Here's the show that loves to talk about gadgets and gizmos, from A-Logic to Yamaha, cameras to control panels. You get what I mean. We love talking all things techie. In fact, that's the name of the show. And here is your host, Justin Dawson.
Thursday morning. I will tell you, is it a good morning? It is a good morning. We are. It's Thursday at ISE 2024. Brought to you. This show brought to you by two guests and two sponsors of the program. From X2O Media and from BZB Gear. All my podcast videos and clips around boots are sponsored by these two companies, and it's great that we have two representatives from the companies. We've got Kevin Hill from X2O Media and Joel Cruz from BZB Gear. Great to have you guys in studio with me. We totally agreed outside just before we hit record that we are going to absolutely wing this podcast. It's like, yes, it's been a busy week, and not just parties and happy hours and meeting people, but it's guys, I don't know how you do it, as in talking all day long on the boots.
Yeah, it really is one of those things that, certainly, and as the week goes on, of course, you struggle a little bit more. Your voice starts to disappear, And as you say, it's not just about being here during the daytime on the stand. We're all doing things in the evenings. You're talking, you're almost continuing the same kind of theme throughout the evening. So, it's, as you said, it really is full on.
Like, do you guys dream of, saying the same stuff after you finish and go home?
It's kind of funny you should say that. I woke up at 6 a.m. this morning and I couldn't get back to sleep because my brain was going, I need to think about this. I didn't talk about that yesterday.
Do you know what? And my wife will see this video afterwards. It's like, you're killing yourself, Justin, but you're going to mind the kids when you get home. I looked at my Fitbit. It's like, congratulations, you had 3 hours, 20 minutes sleep on Tuesday night. Last night I had 3 hours sleep, so it's like I'm on a bad downward trajectory of sleep. Like, hopefully tonight, you can feel like Wednesdays at ISE, the peak of the whole week, exactly. The midweek. The show floor has just opened. We can feel that it is a bit more lull today. Yeah. I think tomorrow,
it's going to be a quiet day.
It's going to be a quiet day.
Yeah.
Well, the topic of our program today, we're going to talk about accessibility in AV, or go down that type of route. For a lot of my listeners and viewers and people that, like you guys, that I'm so passionate of being able to meet people like yourselves, and I've explained that my son's autistic, so accessibility in audiovisual is something very passionate to me, and I, of course, working also in higher ed. I can see we're an autism friendly campus, but I still think there's an extra mile to go, and I don't just mean for autistic people. There's so many different accessibility needs in both higher ed and just in company environment. So I'll start off with yourself, Kevin. You with X2O Media, you have a piece of software that gives the ability for both hybrid learning, remote learning, and on-campus learning. And with that in mind, I always think with autistic people or anyone with additional needs, whether they're dyslexic, dyspraxic, you can't kill a student by death by PowerPoint.
Oh, no, absolutely. And we always say this, while ultimately, of course, at the end of the day, it's about the technology a little bit, it's also about how you deliver that, it's about what you use in that environment. One of the conversations that I'm always having, and we talk about this quite a lot with our existing clients, is that, here's an opportunity to do something different. Mm-hmm. Here's an opportunity to think about the material, to think about the way you deliver it, and appreciate that when you start with one room, that maybe you just want to, it's just about learning the environment, but then start to take those to the next levels. And I think then when you start to really think about that a little bit, or you start to think about how you can use the technology, it really becomes very powerful. And as you said, from that remote accessibility point of view, being able to create a session that's just so much more engaging, that's so much more interesting, where they don't feel isolated. We always talk about the fact that if you're in your Teams or your Zoom or some of those other platforms, sometimes you can feel a bit isolated.
Yes.
You can't really see a lot of people, you don't always know what's going on, you're not really active in the session. You're just another number almost in that field.
And I think you've hit a nail on the head there. you can't have your students anymore being just another number,
Absolutely.
especially when it comes to remote learning.
Yep.
You know how, like, with neurodiverse people, you know they have to have routine, they have to have
Yep.
a presence,
Yep.
they have to have the support.
Yep.
And if all they're seeing, and maybe Joel, you'd like to come in here, if all they're seeing is just one lecture in a thumbnail view,
Yep.
and a lot of the time on the top of a webcam.
Yes. Yep.
Now you bring out some great cameras that go along with this.
Yeah, but I mean, just to quickly touch on your guys' point, we were talking earlier about remote learning.
Yeah.
Not even with people with just disabilities, but just in general. Like my children, right? They had remote learning that whole year during the pandemic. I commend the school districts and the teachers, but it was really tough that year for the kids. Like you said, I think it is part of the technology, because all they used was Skype. They had their laptops that they were given, and you're just looking at the camera. Everyone's looking just at one person. I was reading about like one room. You look at the individual, and you can tell that they're speaking to you.
Yeah.
But it was just nothing is hands on. You don't get that personal one-on-one. So it's but with better technology, with one room, with the cameras. So we do have, auto tracking, but with audio and video. I mean, if you get that clear picture, you can get that sense of that they're actually in the classroom there. You have to be cognizant of how you want your environment to be, as if they were in there, live with you.
Yes.
So, I think it is a big thing.
And again, routine, and it doesn't even mean that like it has to be someone that has additional needs. What is your thoughts? And I'll go for both of you. Your thoughts on when people go into, I'm going to use Zoom or Teams. They go into a call and they switch off their camera. And you go, you think to yourself, even on a learning environment, right? Is it the teacher might want it on, the student might think, well, I'm spending good money here, and I want to be able to be mobile, and I might want to just listen to this lecture or listen to this meeting on the go.
Yeah.
Is it the correct thing to do to switch off your camera on those stages? Should your boss or should your teacher be forcing you to have your camera switched on?
Go
for it, Cameron.
For me, the whole point about our solution is we want people to have their cameras on, because the whole point is we want to be able to visualize them as if they were in the room. I kind of want to see their expressions. I want to see if they look a little bit confused or if they're engaged. So if they've got their cameras off, I lose that. And for me, I guess the way I always think about this is, if you were coming to the lesson, you'd be sitting in the lesson. The fact that you're at home or wherever you are, why wouldn't you have your camera on? Is it really any different? And I get that for some people, maybe there's some other things that mean that they don't want to have their camera on. So maybe there's a few of those. But I think for the majority of people, if it was me, I would absolutely be saying, you've got to treat this like you're in the room. We expect you to have your camera on. I think one of the things we found in our solution as well, and we've done a little bit of research on this with some of our existing customers, as you said, typically in Zoom and Teams, people turn their cameras off. And actually, I find nowadays you can count the people who've got their cameras on probably on one hand in a lot of sessions.
Yes.
Pretty much everyone else is just a tile. But what we found is that if people aren't going to be active in the session, of course not everyone's active in the session, and they're not going to be speaking, generally they don't want to be seen because they're not active. So one of the things we made a point of when we started is we don't really have a gallery view in our system in the true sense.
Yes.
We show what we call the last four speakers, so generally people that are active. So we find, as a result of that, generally people don't turn their cameras off, because those people that aren't active aren't really seen.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, you can see them, we've got different cameras in our room, and part of that is to kind of give the remote participant the ability, I always think about it, to kind of look around the room as almost as if I was in the room, and that's the point about having some additional cameras. Again, gives you that kind of nice feeling of kind of being here almost. But yeah, so generally we find that in most of the rooms I've been in, most of the live rooms, it's fairly unusual to see people with their cameras off.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to touch. I mean, if you think about it, like in actual classrooms, I mean, if the teacher is talking, it's not like it's okay for if the student is not participating or talking, they have their head down or they go, they're sleeping, not paying attention.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with cameras. You want everyone to be engaged, to kind of like be there in the moment. So yeah, you turn the camera off, they could be running errands or not paying attention. So it's kind of difficult like that, those ways.
Going on the topic of accessibility, what if you were setting up a room? I know you guys have your own companies and work for X2O and for BZB Gear, but like for an office environment or for a classroom environment, what do you think, in your views, makes it more accessible for the student or the employee?
Yeah, I think for us a couple of things. As you said, from a remote point of view, it doesn't matter where they are.
Yeah.
Different country, different location. Even in the same location, and we can kind of do that in different ways. And to give you some examples, of course, you can log in as an individual from somewhere, but you could also be a class of people joining as a room with everyone in it. You might call that a huddle room. It might be a small room. It might be a big room. You might be. We're working with one customer at the moment, and what they've got a challenge with shortage of teachers.
Yes.
Massive challenge. Mm-hmm. So what we've been talking about doing with them is they're going to have one room with just the teacher in, specialist teacher, and then they're going to have 3 other rooms that are in different locations, different schools, and in those rooms are purely going to be children. But they'll be logged in remotely, but they'll be there as a class, so they'll have a teaching assistant or someone with them. And okay, of course, that's everyone wants the best education for their children, so ideally you want that teacher in the room. But if there is no specialist teacher, this is the next best thing.
Yes.
Joe, what?
Just to have, I guess the accessibility, right? As long as you have all the correct tools, I mean, it'll help them get along with with learning and what they need, whether it's a meeting or education, healthcare. So, I mean, we were talking about earlier, with the technology before, it was hard for them to do anything remotely, but now everything's getting better. Cameras with control software.
Yeah.
So anything like that, I think everything is just it's improving everything and making it more accessible for people of all needs.
Yeah, and I think Kevin, you hit on an important point. Like, I know a lot of families through support groups and whatever, that please God it doesn't happen to me, and I don't mean that as a negative, but autistic or ADHD children and teenagers, they might hit like a sensory overload of where they go, I don't want to go to school anymore.
Yeah.
And a lot of pressure on the parent then of going, do I have to homeschool? Yeah. And that's even before they get into 3rd level education. So do you see a product like X2O helping this environment? Like you talk, like you're saying, teachers, yes, we have the exact same problem in Ireland where like a lot of the teachers now are moving back to the regions just because our cost of living is so ridiculously high.
Yeah.
So, how do you combat that? Is the classroom of the future, which is pretty much the classroom of the future today, I think departments of education have to change this whole emphasis and say, we went through 2 years of teaching from home. Yes, it's important for, I'm going to say, the neurotypical child that can go and interact with children or teenagers, secondary school or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? But we need to also provide for the people that have the additional needs that might not be able to go.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that's an important part of that, and I think actually the technology allows you to do some things that maybe helps them even more than in a normal classroom, and that kind of might sound a little bit odd, but exactly as you said, some people it's routine, some people it always looks the same, and I think if you start to think about some of those things, it's not too difficult in our platform to to do some things that makes that easier and nicer. And maybe it's, as you say, maybe actually for some of those we need to turn some of those cameras off some of the time, because they like to just concentrate on the one view. So I think there's some things you can think about very easily, and we've been thinking about this a little bit in our roadmap and some of the things that we might do going forward, about how do you think about some of those things as well. While it's lovely, I think you see this sometimes, sometimes less is more.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
We talk about this in digital signage sometimes as well. You see someone that fills the screen with things, and you don't really know what's on there because it's just too much.
Yes, and it's one of the things you actually. I'll let Joe go on that thought. Like, you're nodding your head a lot.
I jumped there, Joe. Sorry.
No, that's the great point, because with infographics, everything you want, like you said, less is more. Like, you don't want too much to overload, too much information. Just clear, concise, few words, few pictures to complement the message that you're saying. I mean, you get to that point like death by PowerPoint. There's so much to take in sometimes. So if you
and even if we go stripped all the way back, and what we call the modern typical approach to teaching, it's the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
But it also goes on a good teacher. Mm-hmm. They could be flooding one slide, and like you talk about. Even in the VIXA standards, you talk about PISCAR and DISCUS standard and image ratio sizes, but you still get the teacher that could have the 80 plus slides going into, like, forget death by PowerPoint, it's the 80 plus slides, and I have put absolutely everything that I can think of on these slides. And even you don't even need to be additional needs to go, that is one, boring, two, overload of information. And that sometimes, like, as audiovisual guys, whether you're a software company, whether you're doing cameras, whether you have microphones, we can only provide the tools. It still comes down to the teacher.
And I'm going to circle back to kind of where I started. I think for me, part of what I spend a reasonable amount of my time doing is talking to people about the practicalities of working in the room. And some of that is exactly what you said. Of course, you could load a PowerPoint and play through that, but as you said, it's just madness. Why would you do that? And I'm going to give you an example here, because I think this is a really nice one. I was lucky enough to sit in a couple of live lessons from one of the schools that we've got. And I was there really just to observe how they were using our technology, whether we could offer any suggestions about things they might do differently, and just continue on that journey of just improving that whole environment. But actually, I sat in an economics lesson and a maths lesson, and I went, oh my God, it's, I'd struggle in these lessons given some of the things they were doing. But the deputy head was taking the economics lesson, and I thought it was an hour and a half lesson. And what he did was he did 15 minutes on the topic, and some of that was PowerPoints, but it was only a few PowerPoints. Some of it was him drawing things and talking things. He did 15 minutes, then he put then he put a poll up to see who'd kind of picked up the key messages almost. So he got everyone to vote on the poll, and then on the basis of that, he put them in a breakout group in the way that they'd answered, and then got them to discuss why they'd answered like that. I thought that was brilliant. A little bit, a short kind of learning, then some backup to see and then talk about your results. That's the sort of thing I think that starts to work. And it's kind of interesting, because we kind of said, if you were doing this in the room, you probably would never do that.
Exactly. Joel, you're nodding your head.
No, I'm just thinking about how you take information in. Mastermind. I've been wanting, or it's a master class. I seen these commercials last year. You could mastermind whatever from dribbling, Curry basketball to writing stories. They break up. It seems so impossible to learn, right? But then the way they set up their sessions, it's like 10-minute clip videos, right?
And that's like good teaching.
So,
yes.
But when it comes back to the AV end of things, like, I don't want to badmouth any of the UCs out there, but like some of the UCs, you can toggle off different things, whether it be chatbots, whether it be polls, whether it be, breakout rooms or whatever. And I always think, again, you don't have to have additional needs, but it affects people if it's not the same routine, and even the non-tech person and the teacher and the student, right? Like I remember doing a project management course during COVID, during lockdowns, and they used one user collaboration system that absolutely I haven't used in years. I used to support it in my previous jobs in the private sector, and the most annoying thing was the chat box was toggled on by the host, by the teacher, but it overlapped. So, because we were watching his screen, it overlapped where some of the links to the notes were. And as a student, I was like, I can't click on that because you have overlapped it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yes, I think like a good UC will allow you to move, if you're working on dual screens, move it to one other screen so you can chat there, and I'd say with that in mind, X2O has to have thought of all these things, of do we like, again, you talked about breakout rooms.
Yep.
People go into breakout rooms and then like, shit, how do I get back into the main room? Or I want to ask the teacher a question.
Yep. Yeah.
Go with Kevin. You're going to say X2O have this all.
We've solved this. And absolutely, breakouts are one of those key features, I think, for anything that you're kind of in this sort of environment. And for us, there were some really important things. One was that smooth transition into those groups. And the smooth transition out, and we've seen some platforms where it's not like that. I would say the one thing I love about about our platform from a group's point of view is that when you're in group mode and you've got your wall of remote students and they're in their groups, and if it's a hybrid room, it might be hybrid groups as well. You can be in one group talking to group, but I can still see everyone else.
Yes.
Now, I can't hear them, but I can see them. Again, back to having your videos on. So I can kind of see if they're engaged, I can kind of see if they're talking, and I might take the decision to go into a group because I can see there doesn't seem to be a lot of activity in that group. I can also look at what they're looking at, so I can look at their whiteboard, I can look at their content, so I can see what they're doing. So I think that ability to be in a group, but still, if you like, almost kind of mind or keep an eye on the other groups is a really nice feature we have in our platform. And I think, and when everyone sees it, they kind of go, this is really cool. And just, again, it just helps that whole process when you're there kind of managing the room, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. Does that take a lot of training, though, on the teacher to go, right, this is the way it's going to operate?
No, I think most people get that fairly quickly. Yeah. I said to you earlier, I do a fair amount of this, go back and have that practicality and talk about that. So we do talk about that. We do kind of go into groups and we think about, and again, sometimes we suggest some things to people. For me, there's just some best practice things that it makes sense to do just to kind of get people started. I think what's also really interesting is every time I've been on one of those sessions, we always kind of get great feedback from people about why can't I do this? Why can't I turn that off? So that's a great opportunity for us to get some input back into our roadmap as well.
Now, we were talking. Do you want to add on anything to that, Joe?
No.
We were talking about cameras, and usually it's like down to the laptop screen, but a lot of teachers then, and it sort of goes back to X2O and the setup. But talking about even with BZB's type of cameras, I think it has to get to the stage now where you have to have a camera, even if it's a small little webcam, that is tracking your movement. Because how distracting is that if even not meeting environment or learning environment, if the lecturer goes off camera?
Yeah, so that's the beauty of auto tracking, or even AI auto tracking now. It's getting more advanced. Auto tracking cameras before, those were good, but you still have to set parameters where the speaker is stop and starting, right? The frame, all of that. Now with AI auto tracking, like our cameras, you just turn it on, set it wherever the teacher, the presenter goes in the classroom, it'll follow. And it's just very, you don't need a cameraman, camera operator anymore. So a lot of these teachers just, it's very convenient for them. And because when you're teaching, say in the classroom, you're on a whiteboard, obviously you do have to, go from left to right. And if you have somebody come up on stage, there's stuff in our firmware where there's multiple people on the stage, it will stick to whoever the main person is that it's intended. You could switch over to the next person if you press a setting or but yeah, just with that, the clear audio, you need audio as well with the visuals. So top video, top audio, all of that. You don't really need. I mean, we do have like speakerphones as well, but I mean, with the camera, audio is great already. So I mean, those are with like PTZ cameras, like you said. That with yours, it looks like one room. It looks like you need just little small webcams. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
those will
user
suffice
information
too. I mean, if sometimes like we have cameras that are just small webcam type. It could be 4K. Do you guys is yours in 4K or is it just 1080p?
It's generally 1080p. We can go up to 4K, but obviously the challenge with that a little bit is obviously from a remote point of view, effectively we're taking more bandwidth now. So
Yeah.
we're
Yes,
always
of course.
conscious
Yeah.
about, we're
I
always
mean, that's-
conscious about bandwidth.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I mean, not everybody needs 4K. I mean, if you have a high quality broadcast, like maybe you need 4K, but health or settings, education settings, 1080p is fine enough. It's very clear. So, and like you said, bandwidth, the speed, and make sure you don't slow down or lag or get knocked off. So, yeah, I mean, it's.
Yeah, it's a really important thing, and I think camera technology is moving on leaps and bounds. I think you say AI has obviously been a big part of that for lots of things. And for us, the camera technology is a really important thing. While as we said in terms of our application and the way our one room works, actually we're still dependent upon those cameras at the end of the day. So, and we use a mix, as you said. We've got some PTZ cameras we have in the room that give us a kind of a room view, and then we've got these more individual cameras. But it's still important technology at the end of the day.
I think we have viewers mention that word. I was wondering when it would come up. AI. It's the buzzword of ISE.
Yeah.
But again, we have to think about people with hearing problems, impairments. We have to think of people that would want to use closed caption recordings, and how important is that now with your software?
I think massively important. I think even, as you said, AI is this kind of big buzzword at the moment, and I keep hearing a lot of people saying powered by AI, and you kind of go, what does that actually mean? Mm-hmm. So I always have a little bit of a challenge when I hear some of these things, and we're just starting our journey really into AI, and we're going to be bringing AI to our platform next year, and we've kind of got a roadmap that'll be 4 or 5 years, and we want to bring one big AI thing to the platform kind of every year. But I'm with you. I mean, this is a great opportunity to do some things that really help. And back to what you said, even some of those accessibility things, I think we can do some things on the platform and some things real time with AI that will really, really move it on. For us, there's some very simple things we can do. AI is a great tool if you've got some data, and we've got a lot of data in our system about everything that happens, just to start to churn that into something that makes some sense. That's an obvious thing. We see the idea of the remote participants. I said one of the things you want to know is if they're engaged or if they look confused. We're thinking about, can we use AI actually to put an icon on the screen that allows the presenter or the teacher to know it looks like this person might not be engaged at the moment, or they look like they're a little bit confused. This is real time now, so now I can see that, and now I can change what I'm doing, maybe ask them some questions, do something to kind of influence that. So I think, there's lots of, I think it's really going to move things on.
Yeah. Would that be through like face recognition or?
We're still going through that at the moment about how we might do that and how we make that joke. But in essence, that's kind of what you're doing. Yeah, it's not so much face. I mean, it is face recognition. We don't want to know who the person is. It's obviously just recognise that they, that from an expression point of view,
mannerisms.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as you would do if you were in the room. If you're in a normal classroom and you could see someone that's looking a little bit confused, you probably go over and talk to them, and So I think we're trying to create that same sort of environment again. But an AI is a way to help with that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, I always think that a good, clear audio is so vital. Now, we have it in every type of meeting, whether it's a classroom learning environment or whether it is, companies and meetings. That you'll always have minimum one person that will go, I can't hear you. Whether that's remote, whether it's hybrid, or whether it's, in class.
Yeah.
So, Joel, how do you improve those type of things, or what what's the recommendations for these type of things?
I mean, I guess it's on both ends. I mean, the presenter can have like the clearest, the best speakerphone, and the best cameras with the best audio. Obviously, the connection, like you said, speed, bandwidth, and all that. But then on the other side, you have to make sure that the person learning remotely or meeting remotely, what type of equipment are they using? Like, I mean, it could be on both ways.
And I always think, like, you might say like it's already there, but I think the AI in some type of software like OneRoom, it's like if you could have the ability to go, when this user joins in, default their speaker on their laptop to be at 40% volume or 50% volume. You know, I know all these UC softwares go, would you like to test your microphone and camera before you join?
Yeah, we do the same.
You know, but it's that going far enough. Like, could a UC software with AI say, we see that your computer is at 40% volume at the moment. Would you like us to increase it?
Yeah,
you know, like I think that's where it has to go.
Yeah.
You know, patent pending, everyone. But I think that's where it has to go.
Yeah.
You know, like before you join a meeting, would you like us to turn on closed captioning for you? Even if it was just a box that appears before you join the meeting.
Yeah. I agree. Again, back to that, making it very easy and very simple to enter and join a session, and as you said, be at that optimal place when you start this. Oh, absolutely. I think it's a great opportunity for AI to do some things there as well. You know, we always find one of the things we say as well. You know, and I think this is a generic thing you'd find in sessions. You know, we always say to our people, if you want the best audio experience, we really need you with the headphones and a good mic. Half the people would turn up with just their computer on with the speakers and microphone. Where you're not going to get the best experience like this.
Yeah. Like, Joel, have you any thoughts on that?
No, I totally agree on that. Just with the tools, right? You need the right tools.
You guys have a couple of nice on table.
We have some on table speakerphones. Great for omnidirectional. Has a far range reaches.
And I think that's the key thing. Omnidirectional. You can't rely on a lecturer to stand in one set spot.
Yeah.
You know, and I know you're with your X2O's setup. You know, you have wide angle cameras and you have several cameras. So if you're looking at different students in different directions.
Yeah.
But you know, and the speakers are usually, or the microphones are set up in that type of way.
Yeah.
But if you go to any other classroom, you know, you will have a lecturer walking along the chalkboard or the whiteboard and moving, and one off microphone, or they are off camera, and this is, you know, and then no one can hear them, and this, you know, it goes back to your classroom setup.
Yeah. I mean, like that's why the beauty, you put the speakerphone anywhere. Doesn't matter if the teacher or the students are talking, or at least if it's a hybrid, or if they're like in the same room. But I mean, if it's a meeting, say it's a meeting, whoever's in the actual meeting, it's just so it's very beneficial for everybody remotely, or the people presenting in the room.
And I think that's a very good point. Don't mind kind of picking up from that, Joe, as well. I think, you know, we spend quite a lot of time with our customers when we first get involved with them, obviously understanding what their use case is, but then looking at the physical spaces they've got, and then designing the solution to work in those spaces. And you know, a lot of people say, you kind of do this before we buy something. Yes, because we've got to get this right. If this room doesn't work, if we haven't put the microphones in the right place, if we haven't put the cameras in the right place, if we don't understand the angles of views of these, it's just not going to work in the way it needs to.
I think that's so important. Like, you know, you have a great system for OneRoom, but if you don't put in the right, you know, if you skimp out on the wrong camera, the wrong microphone, and the wrong speakers,
again, you're ruining it. And it goes further than that. You know, for us, we're looking at what the acoustics like in the room. Do we need some acoustic panels up? What are the colours like in the room? You know, cameras.
And you hit the nail on the head. Another thing for diverse people is
Yep.
the colouring
Yep.
and the setup of the room. You know, is it, you know, like, you know, when I look at some of your case studies of your rooms, you know, it's like the comfort of being able to sit in the room and have the camera at eye level, and it's nearly invisible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think, you know, this is an opportunity to, again, to do something different, and that might sound strange, but I think we're all very used to those traditional classrooms, rows of seats and desks. They don't look interesting or exciting in any form.
Let's change that model.
Well, it doesn't
the
need to
old
be like
school.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm a big advocate of that.
I'm at the front. You're going to listen to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and the desks are all in a line. You know,
Yeah.
why can't we? Let's make them at angles. Let's not have desks in the true sense of the word. You know, the technology is changing. We don't necessarily. People aren't writing anymore in the way they used to.
But like, not only that, in the old style lecture theatres, you know, for an autistic person, you know, they need like, I know for my son, he needs to move. He's not going to sit down.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I'll go a step further. A teacher that might be autistic or have ADHD or whatever and needs to move around and click the pen and whatnot.
Yeah.
You know, we have to change the environment of these rooms.
Yeah. And I think, as you said, back to this, for me right now, I think we're at this kind of whole evolution point. Now, some people are struggling to get on that bandwagon, some people are going to take a while to get through that. But I think with technology, with just this more hybrid learning, this is the time now. And it's to think about everything.
And I think it's, you know, it's time to think about everything. I think it's time to have the ability. Like, yes, there is software out there, you know, there is hardware out there. You're talking about Sennheiser having them, Shure have them, where, you know, if you are T-loops, etc., you know, but it should be the case that, and mobile apps, of course, as well, that you can log into and adjust your own sound levels. Yeah. But why are we not offering this in the classroom instead of the student having to? Yes, okay, T-loops is in the classroom environment, that's fine. But the ability to say the student doesn't have to bring their own device here. You know, here's something under the table or under the desk that, you know, just take it out and use it.
Yeah, back to we said, you know, let's reset this. It doesn't have to be the way it's always been. Yeah, no, I completely agree. But it's kind of funny, we were having this conversation yesterday with a number of people. One of the things that we always strive for, and one of these things we think about in our rooms is that it's not just about the remote participants. Of course, they're important and we think about them, but if we've got a hybrid room, we've got in-room people as well. I'm all about parity, you know. And actually, I think a little bit in our journey, we were so focused to start with really on the remote people, we kind of forgot about the in-room people. They're in-room, it's fine.
Yes.
But actually, you've got to join them.
Yeah.
You know, and it's simple.
And that's it. You have to join them, both for the student and for the teacher, and that's a skill.
Yeah, and back to that, I said, you know, trying to make sure no one feels isolated. And the danger is if you're not careful, you do that with the in-room people a little bit. They become isolated from the remote people. You know, so for us, one of the things we did fairly early on, a little bit into our journey, again, they need a device, but we created an in-room app for the in-room people. Yeah. And part of that was to make sure they could join the chat.
And I was going to ask that, like, how'd you got in it? Yeah.
Exactly that. So that, and it allows them to do a few things, but it's those key things at the end of the day. So it allows them to chat with everyone else, and now they're part of the whole chat community, and everyone who likes to chat a little bit. They have what we call whiteboard functionality, which means they can take part in the polls. It means they can be in hybrid breakout groups, and now they really are part of the class in the true sense. So I think that's really important as well.
BZB, Joe, have a lot of gaming, esports. I know esports really hasn't come. It comes a bit to England, still in its infancy in Ireland. You know, but you know, I say again that, you know, that's a growing trend and something that you guys are really pushing on. You know, so, you know, I think it's important that if a student doesn't want to learn their maths, science subjects, you know, that there is opportunities for, and could be really good at gaming and coding. This is an area that you really have tapped into with 8K now. Just a big plug for you. 8K.
Yes. I mean, esports. If I kind of just started learning about it too, but it's a major thing. Like, you'll see people packing stadiums for professional gamers watching like championship games and things like that. And so now my kid is like, you know, me growing up, don't play video games, but now it's not going to lead anywhere.
Yeah.
But it might now.
Yeah.
But
it's funny.
no. So 8K. I mean, the standard is still 4K right now, but eventually 8K will become the standard.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to stay ahead of the curve, trying to be in the forefront. So we have a bunch of 8K solutions for everything from matrix switchers to extenders to cables, testers. But the beauty is that all of our 8K solutions, they handle 8K at 60, but also 4K at 120. And that's what you mentioned for esports and pro gamers. It's very important for them to have the fastest refresh rates, the clearest fluidity, and clear picture and speed, right? So that's why, the booth we have.
I got the BZB Gear booth.
Booth 5H200.
Yeah.
No, we have a new 8K kind of gaming station just for people to kind of get their hands on, see how 4K at 120 looks like, and we have the the latest PlayStation, Xbox set up there, and people are having fun. Coming to the booth. So.
And I'll give you a chance to plug yours. If Joel's done it, so can you. Where can we find one room?
Yeah, you'll find us. You can't miss us. You'll find us in Hall 3, and we're and if you wonder, I can't remember the stand number, so you're gonna have to excuse me now. It's been one of those. It's been one of those days.
Yes.
But yeah. No, you'll find us in.
It's a big booth.
It's a big booth. You can't miss us. Yeah.
Even going on that 8K route, Joel. And I think we'll have to use this as our final topic, but I'm just looking at the time of the show. It doesn't even need to just be for gaming. Like I always think, like you walk into Hall 3 and then you go, oh my God, sensory overload. Because you have your Panasonic, you have your Samsung, you have your Epson, in one corner. It's like, I don't know where to look. But if you're creating a sensory room environment where you want it calm and chilling, we talked about sound, but the visuals of being able to do something 8K in a calming environment, I think is something special as well.
Yeah, I mean, with 8K, you think of 4K, it's very clear. 8K is just amazing. I mean, they have like huge screens, very clear, feels like you are in the forest. I'll just be stuck there and hypnotized. But I mean, it 8K, if you start using it in just in education, even like say healthcare. I mean, when they do, because you could use that during training, live training, or even procedures. Like you need the clarity. It's going to be huge once 8K becomes more, I guess, accessible and more of the standard. It's going to be.
Yeah, and you hit a good one there. Like, I think we have to push the bar. Yes, bandwidth is our biggest problem. I think says the AV guys to the IT crowd. Fix that, But it is going to be the biggest problem. Like, for teaching healthcare like that, and even if we, not even teaching, but if we, there's a lack of therapists, I know, in Ireland. If we can improve this between having a system like One Room that can, parents and families can log into and get their therapy, and the child feels comfortable doing speech and language therapy, for example. But also having the clearer visuals, like with still 1080p on a lot of these UC environments, we need to push the bar that bit more.
Yeah, and as you said, a lot of that. Unfortunately, that's the restriction. A lot, as we
it's
said,
the bandwidth.
It's back to that engine.
IT guys, it's all your fault.
Yeah, definitely your fault. Yeah.
So. Guys, it's been great to have you in studio. They have mentioned their booths. You're over in 4. You're over 3. You're over in 5. Please do check them out if you are over at ISE this week. Apart from that, websites, give out your website there.
x2omedia.com. Come and find us, have a look. You'll see some good examples of the rooms there, and I think when you see those, you kind of get it. So
And Joel?
BZB Gear. I keep saying BZB Beer.
I said that yesterday. That was last night.
BZBgear.com. We also have a wonderful YouTube channel, tech channel, BZB TV. So check us out there. A lot of content. I know Justin puts out a lot of great content too. So
thank you. And guys, I really appreciate both your companies sponsoring us here at ISE this week. Really appreciate that. And for more, you can check out our website, www.allthingstech.ie, where you find all the podcast videos and everything. And I know that a load of photos on social media have been posted while we have been in this fishbowl.
Yep.
Until then, and we're going to go out and get some air and get some water. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to All Things TechIE podcast, part of the Extreme Media Network. Follow us on Twitter at AVTechJunkies. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch our show on YouTube by visiting youtube.com/@Justin_or_Dawson. Previous episodes of our show can be found on our official site, www.allthingstech.ie. For advertising and sponsorship opportunities, please visit www.extrememedia.ie.